Hey, hey, hey. Welcome to a world of laughter, learning, and entertainment. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of Chelmsford City F.C. We hope you find it enlightening. Chelmsford City Football Club is a semi-professional football club based in Chelmsford, Essex, England. Currently members of they play at the Melbourne Stadium. Brace yourselves for the next chapter, where we'll be dissecting Chelmsford. Chelmsford Football Club was established in 1878 by members of the Chelmsford Lawn Tennis and Cricket Club to give them something to do in the winter. 6 years earlier, an attempt to form a football club by the same name had been proposed by Chelmsford West End Cricket Club, but the plans failed to materialise. On 16 November 1878, Chelmsford played their first game, drawing against Romford at home, with Chelmsford's first ever goal being scored by East H. Christie. In May 1883, some members of the club proposed to fold the club and reform as a new club due to a lack of interest. However, nothing came of it. The club won the Essex Senior Cup and again in 1895 they were founder members of the North Essex League, but left in 1900 to join Division 1 of the South Essex League. The club also entered a team into the newly formed South East Anglian League, but left after a single season. They finished bottom of Division 1 of the South Essex League and again in. They spent a season playing in the Eastern Division of the Spartan League. In 1912 Chelmsford were amongst the founder members of the Athenian League, although they also continued to play in the South Essex League for another season. In 1922 the club failed to be re-elected and dropped into the Middlesex County League. They also entered a team into the Essex and Suffolk Border League. That season saw the club win the Middlesex County League and finish second in the Border League, prompting them to step up to the Premier Division of the London League. In the following season, Chelmsford won the East Anglian Cup, a feat repeated and the club won the London League Premier Division title before becoming founder members of the Eastern Counties League in 1935. 2 years later they left the ECL to become founder members of the Essex County League. In 1938, it was decided to form a professional club to join the Southern League. Having seen how Colchester Town had fared so badly after the formation of the professional Colchester United, it was decided to close down the existing club and to reform as Chelmsford City, despite the fact that Chelmsford itself would not be granted city status until 2012. Chelmsford's last game as an amateur club came in the Chelmsford Hospital Cup, drawing at New Brittle Street against Hoffman Athletic on 23 April 1938. As we venture forward, let's examine Chelmsford City in detail and gain a deeper appreciation for its significance. The new club continued playing at New Brittle Street and were accepted into the Southern League. On 27 August 1938, Chelmsford City played their first game, drawing against Bristol Rovers reserves. They made an immediate impact in the FA Cup, reaching the 4th round in their first season. After beating fellow non-league club Kidderminster Harriers in the first round, they defeated Division 3 North Darlington in the second round and 2nd Division Southampton in home matches with attendances in excess of 10,000. In the 4th round they lost at Birmingham City. At the end of the season the club applied to join the Football League, but received only 1 vote. In the season the Southern League was split into Eastern and Western Divisions. City were Eastern Division champions and were declared joint overall champions after drawing a play-off with Lovells Athletic. The club were the Southern League's first champions when football resumed after World War II, also winning the Southern League Cup that season. They applied for Football League membership in 1947, 1948, 1950 and 1951 and 1956 but were unsuccessful on each occasion. Their 8 votes in 1950 put them second amongst the unsuccessful clubs, and marked their highest ever vote total. Chelmsford won the Southern League Cup again and the league title and they continued to apply to join the Football League, making bids in 1960, 1961, 1962, and every year between 1967 and 1971, and again from 1973 until 1976, but were unsuccessful. In total, the club had 17 unsuccessful attempts at election into the Football League between 1947 and 1976. They remained in the top division of the Southern League until when they were relegated to Division 1 South. In 1977, City were one of 6 clubs to represent England in the Anglo-Italian Cup. After the formation of the Alliance Premier League, they regained their top division status in the Southern League. The club were relegated again but made an immediate return to the Premier Division after winning Division 1 South the following season. Another relegation was experienced in and after an issue with the seating at the ground meant they were refused promotion in. They did not return to the Premier Division until 2001. In 2004, Chelmsford transferred to the Premier Division of this Mayan League and were champions in, earning promotion to the Conference South. They reached the play-offs in the following season but lost to Hampton and Richmond in the play-off semi-finals. The club qualified for the play-offs again but lost in the semi-finals on both occasions. They reached the second round of FA Cup losing at Wycombe Wanderers. In the following season, Chelmsford reached the second round again, taking Macclesfield Town to a replay after drawing at home. However, they lost in the replay at Moss Rose. During the season, the club reached the second round for the 3rd year in a row, defeating along the way Essex rivals Colchester United at Melbourne Park. At the end of the season, the club qualified for the play-offs for the 4th time in 5 years, but lost in the semi-finals to Salisbury City. After a period of mid-table finishes, Chelmsford qualified for the play-offs again after finishing 4th in the renamed National League South. After beating Dartford on aggregate in the semi-finals, they lost to Ebbsfleet United in the final. A 3rd place finish the following season led to another play-off campaign, but the club were beaten by Hampton and Richmond Borough in the semi-finals. In the season, Chelmsford finished 4th, however lost in the play-offs away to Worthing United, their 9th play-off campaign in total. During the season, the club qualified for the first round of the FA Cup for the first time in 5 years, losing against Barnet in a replay, as well as qualifying for the play-offs for the first time since 2019, where they lost against St Albans City. In this section, we'll be exploring reserve team. When Chelmsford City was formed in 1938, it entered a reserve team into the Eastern Counties League. After World War II, the team were champions in a season in which they also won the East Anglian Cup, going unbeaten in the first season. They also played in the London League between 1945 and 1948, winning the Premier Division although the team's later years in the ECL were not as successful, they won the League Cup before withdrawing in 1963 after losing the title to Lowestoft Town on goal average. They then joined the Metropolitan League, winning the league title and Professional Cup before being disbanded in 1969 to reduce the club's running costs. However, the reserves were resurrected briefly and then again in 1976 when the team joined the Essex Senior League, in which they played until 1990. The reserve team then joined the Essex and Herts Border Combination League and was disbanded again in 1997. Resurrected again in 2004, the reserve team rejoined the Border Combination before moving to the Capital League in 2007. In 2014, the reserve team returned to the Essex and Herts Border Combination. In June 2021, the club confirmed the reserve side would enter the Essex and Suffolk Border League Premier Division. In June 2023, after 2 seasons in the Essex and Suffolk Border League, the club withdrew from the league. Prepare yourself for an eye-opening discussion on ground in the upcoming portion of this video. Chelmsford moved to New Brittle Street in 1922, having previously played at Broomfield Road, New Street and King's Head Meadow in the centre of the town. After their establishment, Chelmsford City continued to play at the New Brittle Street ground, which the club purchased in 1939. During the early parts of World War II, the ground was shared by Southend United, before it became a barrage balloon site in 1942. On 2 occasions, the stadium hosted greyhound racing. The record attendance of 16,807 was set for a local derby with Colchester United on 10 September 1949. Floodlights were installed in 1960 and several plans were made to increase facilities at the ground, including installing a swimming pool and building office blocks or a hotel, but none came to fruition. The club's first foodlit game was against Wisbech Town on 21 September 1960, with the official opening coming in a friendly against Norwich City on 3 October 1960. In 1997, the site was sold to developers and the club had to move out of Chelmsford, with Chelmsford's last game at the ground being a win against Clevedon Town on 16 August 1997. They initially shared at Malden Town's Wallace Binder ground, before moving to Billericay Town's New Lodge in 1998. In January 2006, the club moved back to Chelmsford when they became tenants at the Melbourne Stadium, also known as Chelmsford Sport and Athletics Centre. The centre first had a track in 1934, before a cinder track was opened in 1962 alongside 2 seated stands on one side of the track, together holding 700 spectators. It hosted Chelmsford City ladies' matches, as the pitch inside the track was too small for men's football. The ladies' team left the ground when the stands were dismantled, although a new 270-seat stand was built in the early years. Chelmsford City announced that they would be moving to the Melbourne Stadium in March 2004. Following the announcement, another stand was built on the other side of the pitch. The first game back in Chelmsford was against former landlords Billericay Town on 2 January 2006 and was played in front of a then-record crowd of 2,998. The club has plans to upgrade the stadium to 5,000 capacity, capable of achieving the necessary ground grading. The current record attendance at Melbourne Stadium is 3,201 for a game against AFC Wimbledon on 15 March 2008. In December 2020, the stadium was renamed the EMG Inspire Stadium as part of a sponsorship deal. Brace yourself for an in-depth analysis as we navigate through supporters and rivalries and its far-reaching implications. In 1928, the Supporters Club was in operation during the existence of Chelmsford F.C., the town's former amateur club. With branches in the Essex towns of Braintree, Malden and Witham, the Supporters Club had built up enough funding to improve the terracing at New Brittle Street and purchase houses to accommodate players that did not already live local to Chelmsford. On 31 August 1939, a number of small fights broke out, according to the Essex County Standard, following Chelmsford's win against Colchester United at Layer Road. During the club's Southern League stay, Chelmsford regularly drew attendances of over 3,000 in the late years, reaching a seasonal high average attendance of 4,438 during the season. In January 1968, the club recorded an attendance of 16,403 for an FA Cup tie against Colchester United. 5 years later, Chelmsford declared an attendance of 15,557 in the same competition against Ipswich Town, with numerous supporters being charged in regards to spectator violence. In August 1976, the two clubs once again experienced violence during a pre-season friendly at New Brittle Street. Nowadays, the club holds rivalries with Braintree Town, Billericay Town and Dartford. During both clubs' tenure in the Southern League, Chelmsford and Romford also held a rivalry. In the next segment, we'll be exploring European record and its implications for our subject matter. In 1977, Chelmsford City were one of 6 clubs to represent England in the Anglo-Italian Cup. Former England international Jimmy Greaves described the 1977 Anglo-Italian Cup as the highlight of his time at Chelmsford City. In 1983, Chelmsford returned to Italy for a 2-game stint in the Anglo-Italian Cup. In this part of the video, we'll be diving deep into managerial history and unraveling its profound impact. 1938, B. Walker, Alan Slyman, Harry Warren, Arthur Rowe, Jack Tressenden, George Smith, Billy Walsh, Ben Burley, Oggy Scott, Frank Grice, Harry Ferrier, Billy Fried. 1966, Peter Harburn, Harry Ferrier, Jeff Walker, Dave Bumpsteed, Sid Prosser. 1975, Bill Livers, Don Walker Caretaker, Bobby Kellard, Mick Lawton. 1978, Ollie Hopkins. 1978, Brian Honeywood Caretaker. 1978, Don Walker Caretaker, John Newman, Don Walker, Colin Harper. 1981, Paul Daly Caretaker, Mick Lawton, Don Stewart Caretaker, Joe O'Sullivan. 1987, Don Stewart Caretaker, Chris Symes, George Borg, Danny O'Leary, Joe O'Sullivan. 1996, Robbie Garvey and Paul Watts. 1996, Roy McGunner, Colin Norman and Gary Bellamy, Paul Parker, Steve Mosley, Aidan Boxall Caretaker, Craig Edwards, Jeff King, Glenn Pennefather. 2013, Dean Holsworth. 2013, Kenny Brown Caretaker, Mark Hawkes. 2016, Kevin My Caretaker, Rod Stringer, Robbie Simpson. As we enter this new phase, let's uncover the impact of honours on our broader topic. Isthmian League, Premier Division Champions Southern League, Champions Joint, Division 1 South Champions, League Cup winners, London League, Champions Middlesex County League, Champions East Anglian Cup, winners, Eastern Floodlight Cup, winners, Eastern Floodlight League Cup, winners, Essex Professional Cup, winners, Essex Senior Cup, winners, Non-League Champions Cup, winners. Let's now zoom in on records and uncover the hidden gems that lie within. Best FA Cup performance, 4th round, Best FA Trophy performance, semi-finals, record attendance. Highest, New Riddle Street, 16,807 versus Colchester United, Southern League, 10 September 1949. Melbourne Stadium, 3,201 versus AFC Wimbledon, Isthmian League, 15 March 2008. Lowest, 120 versus Dover, Southern League, 21 December 1979. Biggest victory versus Ruislip, Southern League Southern Division, 6 December 1988 versus Bashley, Southern League Division 1 East, 26 April 2000. Heaviest defeat versus Barking, FA Trophy, 11 November 1978. Most appearances, Tony Butcher, 560. Most goals, Tony Butcher, 286. Record transfer fee received, £50,000 sterling from Peterborough United for Dave Morrison. 1994 record transfer fee paid, £10,000 sterling to Dover Athletic for Tony Rogers. 1992, £10,000 sterling to Highbridge Swifts for Chris Lee. 2001 youngest player, John Felton, 15 years, 10 months and 26 days versus Waterlooville. 30 April 1980 oldest player, Peter Taylor, 42 years, 3 months and 7 days versus VS Rugby. 10 April 1995. Thank you for watching. I appreciate your support and I'll see you in the next video.